Peaceful, everybody. This is about a 12-year-old Montana boy who was found dead in a living room. Police say grandparents and uncle tortured him, and as you can see here in the screenshot, is the 12-year-old who's been found dead in a living room. The grandparents and uncle of a 12-year-old boy in Montana have been charged in connection with his death, after police say they found evidence of them torturing the child. So the grandparents and uncle of a 12-year-old boy who is from Montana have been charged. They have been charged with his death after police say they found evidence of them torturing the child. Videos found by police show a pattern of abuse that included forced exercises and physical abuse, according to court documents. So, according to the court documents, videos found by police show a pattern of abuse and include forced exercises and physical abuse on a 12-year-old. James Alex Hurley had been living with his grandparents, James Sasser Jr. and Patricia Batts, for the last 2 years. Also in the home were the couple's children, including their 14-year-old son, who was James's uncle. The uncle is being charged as a minor. So the 14-year-old is being charged as a minor. So he can't be charged as an adult, but they can charge him as a minor. James Sasser Jr. and Patricia Batts were the 12-year-old's grandparents. They've been also charged. Detectives found video from about 2 years ago where James appeared to be a healthy and well-fed boy, court documents said. At the time of his death, detectives said James appeared to be emaciated, according to court documents. So according to the documents, James was a well-fed boy and he was healthy. But at the time of his death, the detectives say James appeared to emaciated, so they starved him and didn't give him no food, no water, no anything. I believe the systematic torture and beatings are perpetrated on the victim in this case that led to his death. B. Jordan Boyer, Deputy County Attorney with the Gallatin County Attorney's Office, told CNN affiliated KTVH TV. So, the deputy county attorney, he said that he believes the systematic torture and beatings are perpetrated on the victim in this case that led to his death. So, with the grandparents and the 14-year-old uncle beating this 12-year-old, they really have let the systematic has been torture and beatings. The suspects have all three been charged with one count of deliberate homicide, according to court documents. So they all been charged with one count of deliberate homicide. A fourth person, Gage Roche, 18, was also arrested for felony assault on a minor. Court documents allege that Roche, a family friend, could be seen on cell phone video beating Hurley with a paddle. So the 18-year-old, his name is Gage. He was a family friend as well. He also had been charged for felony assault on a minor. Of course, the cell phone video beating Hurley with a paddle, and of course, videos pick up everything. Cameras pick up everything just to show evidence. Court documents show the defendants are being represented by the Gallatin County Public Defender's Office. CNN has reached out on multiple occasions. So CNN tried to reach out to them on multiple occasions. And of course, the court documents show the defendants are being represented by the Gallatin County Public Defender's Office. James Hurley had been sent to Montana by his mother to live with his father. James' mother lives in Texas, according to a criminal complaint from the Gallatin County Attorney's Office. Alright, so the mother who lives in Texas has sent him to his father who was living in Montana. But according to a criminal complaint from the county attorney's office, she did send him to Montana to live with his father. James' father died in 2018, which is why he ended up living with his grandparents and uncle, the complaint said. So the father had passed away in 2018. We have no idea from what. And this is why James ended up living with his grandparents and uncle, and this is what the complainant is saying. The family described Hurley as recently becoming suicidal, erratic, and hearing voices, according to the complaint. So, according to the complaint, James was becoming suicidal, erratic, and hearing voices. Well, somebody should have took him to the doctor to get him help. And of course, the mother did not want to take him to the doctor, so she just lets him try to hurt himself. Even when she had sent him to his grandparents, they should have took him to the doctor for help. Grandparents didn't even do that. So now the grandparents decide, oh, well, we're going to torture this boy and blah, blah, blah. And of course, the 14-year-old, who's James's uncle, decided to join in as well to torture this 12-year-old. Sometime in January, relatives said James deliberately tried to hurt himself by running himself into an entertainment center, according to the complaint. So in January of last month, James tried to hurt himself by running himself into an entertainment center. And this is according to the complainant. Despite the family's claims, detectives say they have not been able to find any record of the family reporting these alleged behaviors to law enforcement or of the family attempting to get medical or physical help for James. So there was no evidence of the behaviors. They could not find any records of the family reporting these alleged behaviors to law enforcement. There was no medical or psychiatric help for James as well, so they really have tortured this 12-year-old so severely. And this is despite the family claims. Detectives said they have not been able to find any records, so there was no evidence of anything. Detectives were also told by James's biological mother in Texas that she tried to call the grandparents home numerous times, but those attempts were systematically blocked by bats, the complaint said. So the mother in Texas, she tried to call the grandparents so many times, but they were blocked by bats. The grandmother blocked her calls because she did not want nothing to do with the mother. Detectives were also told by James' biological mother, of course. The 14-year-old uncle claimed that on January 27th, he saw James standing over bats with a knife, the complainant said. The uncle told investigators he didn't know that James was going to do with the knife, so he tackled him, according to the complainant. The uncle said he punched James several times on his body and head, the complainant said. So according to the uncle, who is 14 years old, who is the uncle of the 12-year-old, he said that on January 27th that he saw James standing over bats with a knife. The complainant said the uncle told investigators he didn't know what James was going to do with the knife, so he tackled him. So the 12-year-old was going to kill the grandmother with the knife. But then again, I mean, maybe this 12-year-old might have had been sleepwalking or something to make him do that. The uncle did say he punched James several times on his body and head. So James was beaten by the 14-year-old. James was 103 pounds at 5 feet 3 inches tall, and his 14-year-old uncle was 300 pounds and 6 feet tall. Well, that's a big difference right there. James is 103 pounds, and his 300-pound 14-year-old uncle has beaten him. And his uncle is 6 feet tall. For 14 years old, he should have never beat this 12-year-old who was 103 pounds and 5 feet 3 inches tall. James and the uncle had multiple altercations, with the last one being in February, the complainant said. So James and the uncle did have multiple altercations. Sasser told detectives that on February 2nd he had been asleep, but the uncle and James had gotten into a fight. He woke up the next morning and was told by Batts that James had died, according to the complainant. So the uncle told the detectives that on February 2nd he had been asleep, and the uncle, who was the 14-year-old, and James, who was the 12-year-old, had gotten into a fight. The uncle woke up the next morning and was told by Batts that James had died. So the 14-year-old had killed the 12-year-old. And this is according to the complainant. Batts told detectives she was also asleep during the Super Bowl, but woke up to the uncle and James having an altercation, during which the uncle hit James with a paddle, according to the complainant. She denied that the uncle hit him on the head. Batts told detectives she found James's body on February 3rd in the living room area, the complainant said. So Grandma told the detective she was also asleep during the Super Bowl, but woke up to the uncle and James having an altercation. So why didn't she stop the fight to begin with? During which the uncle hit James with the paddle, which she should have, and the grandmother should have told the 14-year-old, do not hit him with the paddle. But instead, nope. Instead, this 12-year-old had gotten a beating with the paddle. She denied that the uncle hit him on the head. So the uncle hit him on the head with the paddle. Batts told the detective she found James's body on February 3rd in the living room area, the complainant said. So now Batts, who is the grandmother, told the detectives that she found James's body on February 3rd. Really? She knew what was going on. And now she's trying to cover up the fact that this 12-year-old has started it. Come on, really? James's body was taken to Montana State Crime Lab for an autopsy on February 4th, where an autopsy said his preliminary cause of death was blunt force trauma to the back of his head, the complainant said. Toxicology reports are still pending. So we got the toxicology reports are still pending, and of course the state crime lab for an autopsy on February 4th. The autopsy said his preliminary cause of death was blunt force trauma to the back of his head. So the uncle took the paddle and hit him so hard in the back of the head that caused his death. Detectives seized the cell phones of the uncle and grandparents and put together a timeline based on videos of abuse. dating back to December 2019. So now they have to go back to December 2019, where it all started from. The detectives did seize all the cell phones of the uncle and grandparents, and of course, the detectives put together a timeline based on videos of abuse. And this is dating back to December of 2019. Detectives observed videos of what appeared to be the family torturing James, the complainant said. So yeah, so the family had tortured James. And this is what the detectives observed videos shown. Instances of the abuse included James being forced to do exercises, jumping jacks, and wall squats, along with standing in front of a fan with no clothing but his underwear. According to the complainant, videos reviewed by detectives also showed the suspect spraying James in the face with an unknown substance that burned him and choking him, the complainant said. Alright, so the abuse included James being forced to do exercise, jumping jacks, and wall squats, along with standing in front of a fan with no clothing but his underwear. So that's what James had to go through. According to the complainant, videos reviewed by detectives also show the suspect spraying James in the face with an unknown substance that burnt him and choking him. So we have no idea what they sprayed him with, but hopefully whatever it is, it will come out. During the search of the home, detectives also found food in the house was locked up, so James did not have access to it, the complainant read. So James was starving. The family locked up the food so James could not be allowed to have access to it. I mean, starving this 12-year-old was wrong. How in the world can the grandparents and the 14-year-old uncle of the 12-year-old do this to him? I mean, they locked everything up so James could not be allowed to eat. They made him starve and they tortured this child. They tortured him so severely that James had passed away by blunt trauma to the back of the head with a paddle by a 14-year-old. And the grandmother is trying to cover it up. The grandmother is also been charged along with the grandfather. All four suspects, because you can't forget the 18-year-old who was the family friend. Even the 18-year-old has been charged with felony as well, to hurting a 12-year-old. Wherever, I don't know where they're going to put the 14-year-old, probably put him in a juvenile somewhere. The grandparents are definitely going to prison, so there's no questions asked about them two. But the 14-year-old, he's definitely going to be going away for a while, even though he's been charged as a minor. So they're definitely going to put him in juvenile somewhere or wherever they could put him at. And I feel sorry for the mother who had to send her 12-year-old to his grandparents. I mean, seriously, come on. I still think the mother should have been charged as well. And I mean, she had no right to send this 12-year-old by himself to Montana, saying, oh, well, she sent him to live with his father, and she knew that the father passed away in 2018. So why not go after the mother as well for sending a 12-year-old? Leave your comments below. I am out.